So hello and welcome once again to the Wiki Weekdays podcast. I'm your host, Karl Smallwood. I'm joined, as always, off camera and off screen, if you're listening to the podcast version, by my friend Lucas Holland, who's got a bit of a cold today, right?
Yeah, so, we're recording two podcasts at the same time, and it just so happens to be the week where, I'm feeling really stuffy and a bit nasty, but, we want to provide you lovely folks content still, so I'm powering through, and we're going to have a fun time anyway.
Yes, and we are deep now into Spooky Month, and what better content for Spooky Month than talking about films? And speaking of films, Lucas, today's episode is sponsored by people making a film. That being the Canadian horror slashy movie. I guess it is kind of slasher movie, I'll Be Glad When You're Dead. And their Indiegogo, to help fund this movie, goes live on Halloween, which is a good day for an Indiegogo about like a scary movie to go live, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah. It's always weird to see people not lean into the Halloween date when they do spooky stuff.
It's so strange, yes. And, that's something that's going to be my wiki kind of centers around that, but we'll get to that shortly. And, doubling down on like the spookiness for this sponsor spot, they have paid us, Lucas, $666.
And that's, just for clarification, that is for the multiple sponsor spots we're doing over the next week or so.
Yes, so over the next week or so, we've mentioned this multiple times for anyone out there who thinks they can get away with skipping it. And we're going to drop it in randomly as well so you can. Also, I don't know why you'd skip a thing like this, because it's a genuinely interesting project that's been in the pipeline for a couple of years. And we'll talk about that, when we get to the midpoint. But first, Lucas, what's the wiki you brought this week?
Well, the wiki that I've brought this week is a movie. We're not talking about their movie because, we'll save that for the sponsor spot. But I'm talking about Scary Movie.
As in Scary Movie, the franchise?
As in Scary Movie, the first movie.
Okay, so I saw a comment on one of our previous videos that nearly made me go, okay, just delete this person. And it was, Joe, we had a Hot Fuzz video, a Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, right, yeah.
There was a comment from someone who is wrong, saying, well, I always saw Shaun of the Dead as being the same level as those Scary Movie movies. And it's like, well, you're wrong, and you're bad at watching. You are wrong and bad at watching movies. The only scary movie that is even remotely close to anything in Shaun of the Dead is the third one, because that was basically a secret Zucker Abrams Zucker movie, the guys who did Airplane.
Oh, right.
Which is why Leslie Nielsen's in it. They basically did uncredited rewrites and made the whole thing into a Zucker Abrams Zucker project.
Oh, right. I always assumed that Scary Movie 1 was kind of the pinnacle of the franchise.
The third one's the best one because it was written by people who aren't the Wayans brothers. Mm-hmm. So let's give me their full titles. Transphobes, the Wayans brothers.
Oh, no.
Oh, sorry.
I didn't know that pick in this movie. Oh, no.
The misogynistic transphobes, the Wayans brothers.
Oh.
Yeah. They're yeah.
Okay, so yeah, bear in mind that I've seen this movie 15 years ago and was just Scary Movie's a parodic take on a lot of horror slasher films. Mm-hmm. And I thought it'd be fun to talk about. I wasn't aware of any of that stuff.
Oh, that's fine. Lucas, when you're talking about any comedy movie from 15, 20 years ago, the people who were involved were probably a bit dickish.
Or very problematic. It's, doesn't seem to be that there's many people, I'd say, around 2000s comedy that weren't either a dick or very problematic.
Mm-hmm.
And I really respect the fact that Scary Movie that came out in 2000 is, again, a parody movie. It's a horror comedy film.
Mm-hmm.
And the tagline for the movie straight away on the poster: no mercy, no shame, no sequel.
Yep.
Yeah. We saw where that went. And I know that there's glancing through this earlier, there's a part of the trivia where it's Scary Movie 2 came out and then they changed the Scary Movie poster where they just had a big red cross across the no sequel thing. And it's they had no shame about it. They literally took the piss and went, there's not going to be any sequel. We're not, falling into that Hollywood trap. And then they went, oh, we did make a lot of money, though.
Mate, if you want to talk shameless, you've got to talk about the Wayans brothers. They're like the most shameless. There is no like limit to the depth they will go to reach that. Like, the fruit is not low hanging; it is under the ground. They are digging to find it.
Yeah, and I think this kind of obviously set off a trend for a long time of all these parody movies, and all of which are pretty much just horribly bad and just, low hanging fruit.
Scary Movie is probably one of the worst ones because, like, they were literally parodying adverts.
Right.
It's like, I think there's a great breakdown of like Top Secret done by the guys at Red Letter Media, where they talk about how the reason those movies were like Airplane, Top Secret, the Naked Gun movies is because they're parodying a lot of things, but they're just funny without knowing the reference. Whereas all the scary movies and movies of that ilk, if you don't know what they're referencing, it's not funny. It's like doing what's like Family Guy, Modern Family Guy, and you're like on Modern South Park, and you're like, oh, yeah, and I know the thing. Will this hold up in 10 years' time?
That they are spoofing other movies, and therefore, if you don't know those other movies, the spoofs, how are you going to realise that they're meant to be funny?
Yeah, but that's why you just make them funny on their own, which is why what Airplane and stuff does. Like, Airplane is literally a spoof of a movie called like 0 Hour, like a literal shot-for-shot remake of an actual movie that existed. And no one knows that. Like, when you're talking, like, what? So, yeah, they bought the rights to that movie because they were genuinely worried they'd get sued for how close it is to the original. Like, they were genuinely worried it wouldn't count as parody because of how close it is, because they actually use lines from that movie.
But
they're jokes.
They've done it in an actually funny way.
Yeah, you don't need to know that.
No real need to ever have seen that movie, whereas this kind of Scary Movie kind of holds up entirely on the fact that you have seen the movies that are spoofed most predominantly, Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer, along with a few extra ones here that says The Sixth Sense, The Usual Suspects, The Matrix, The Blair Witch Project, and Dawson's Creek.
I always forget how many things parodied The Matrix.
Yeah, everything around 2000.
Everything had to do a Matrix parody.
Yep. It's like just every movie 2000 to like 2005 had a Matrix nod in it, almost entirely. Especially, obviously, comedy movies and stuff, but even a lot of movies that took themselves quite seriously just needed to have a weird Matrix plug in them. And it was weird. Like, talk about just how to signify how prolific the Matrix was back then. It's just the amount of things that spoofed, like, the bullet time moment.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But, as I said, the tagline is "No mercy, no shame, no sequel." The last reference being an ironic nod towards the tendency of popular horror movies becoming cash cow franchises. 2001 then saw the release of Scary Movie 2 with the appropriate tagline, "We lied."
Yeah, and then that's like the third one was done. Like, basically, it was and I remember them getting really mad about it. Of like, oh, they took the franchise away from us. It's like, and they gave it to the people who did fucking Airplane. Like, surely, if you want to make like. You can complain, if not for the fact they gave it to the people who made Airplane, a.k.a. one of the funniest movies of all time.
So, Karl, you can tell that kind of like the film, kind of just didn't really have anything to go off considering the first titles. It's like, there was Slasher 911, just like, emergency call, but also just like, last summer I screamed because Halloween fell on Friday the 13th.
Clearly, like, creativity is their strong suit here.
Clearly, and
that's the problem as well. It's like those scary movies, like, they're not actually parodying in the sense of like they're just making they do the same shot but worse.
Yeah, it's just recreating things from that movie but poorly.
Yeah, and that's not what parody is. That's copying.
And essentially, like, I thought one of the fun things to do, because on the Scary Movie fandom page, what we're reading now, is it just has a list of like all of the parodies.
Okay, 'cause I will say though, well, I do have one moment I'd like to single out as being actually funny.
Okay.
And it's the moment, I think it's Scary Movie 2, because that's the one that references 13 Ghosts, which just come out. And that's where like Cindy is running away from a skeleton. And her friend says, "Why are you running away from a skeleton? It's a skeleton." And she just hits it with a baseball bat. It's like, it's a skeleton. What's it got? And like, that's actually a funny joke. That's like, lampshade. You think, I'm scared. It's a skeleton. It's like, why would you be scared of a skeleton? It's a skeleton.
Yeah. That's fair enough. But yeah, I thought that this might make like an interesting kind of main part of the wiki page is just seeing what they parodied and be like what they thought was good to parody from it. Yeah,
because that's usually the thing. It's I put Scary Movie, with the exception of Scary Movie 3, like I said, because Zucker Abe and Zucker worked on it and did like rewrites. It's in the same boat as like Disaster Movie, Date Movie, and dare I say it, Movie 43. The only movie I have ever watched that I almost walked out of. Yeah. It is the only movie I was this close to walking out because that was the one that was advertised. Look at all the celebrities that made it into this movie. And it turns out most of them just got fucking blackmailed into being in it.
And I'm pretty sure that we went to go see that one together with like
a group of
friends. And I've never felt so deflated walking out, everyone just being like, why the fuck did we go there?
It's more as well. It's, you know when people say something's painful to watch? And it's like, I never understood that until I watched movie 43, and specifically, and I think you know which one I'm going to mention, don't you, of the speed dating scene where they're like Batman and Robin.
Oh, God.
And it's like 15 minutes long.
Yeah.
And it's so long. And it feels like an SNL skit where they just said, just improvise.
Just fill time until the adverts, right? Like,
and it is painful.
Yeah, I remember thinking, watching that movie, is like every single one of these could have been like a single punchline and move on.
But
and then, I'd say they just drag it out.
Because they had to, well, we've got these celebrities. Like, let's do it. And yeah, that's what I see those scary movies as, like, with the exception of the third one, because that was actually worked on by people who were good at parody.
And this movie apparently parodies Scream 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah, because like, they were all based on the same movie, weren't they? And
but
that's the thing as well. Like,
Scream 3 out by then?
Probably. It might come out that year.
Yeah.
Because by the end of it, like those scary movies and like the movie movies, like disaster movie stuff, they were parodying stuff that was in the trailers for movies. Like, remember the superhero one?
Oh, it's Scream 3, also 2000.
Yeah, they were parodying stuff from the trailers of movies. Like that's the thing. Do you know when you say like, and to properly parody something, you need to have at the very least a decent understanding of what it is.
Yeah.
They were literally parodying stuff from the trailers, which means they hadn't even watched the movie. They just knew oh, here's a scene that we can put into our movie and put a fart joke in it. And it's like, that's not parody. That's just putting a fart joke into a scene.
So yeah, the parody, the Scream trilogy. So Bobby and Ray remark how Scream didn't have a plot. The killer is Ghostface.
It does have a plot.
Scream does. Scream does.
Scary Movie does have a fucking plot.
The theatre scene with Brenda, also Ray being stabbed through the ear with a killer's penis.
Oh yeah, because remember, Lucas, like, Joe, what's really funny? Rape.
Yeah.
You would not believe how many of like those moments in those first two Scary Movie movies are just, do you know what's really funny? Sexual assault.
Oh God. Like, not only did 2000s comedy not age well, 2000s parody comedy. Parody in big air quotes. It's like, oh God, just awful. And then just the Scream 3 homage is apparently just shorty films a tape saying how to survive a trilogy. It's like, is that really parody? Is it?
What's the thing? Like, they're parodying Scream, which is already itself a parody, of the horror genre and is like a masterful takedown of it, because it takes all of its tropes and turns them on their head. And so you have like the bit with like the guy sat in front of the TV of like, don't go in there. It's like this killer's right behind him. And it reminds me of that. There's that great quote about like Waluigi, isn't it? Like, why Waluigi's not a character? Because like Wario, isn't it, like, he's the shadow of Mario. But when people think Waluigi is like the shadow of Luigi, it's like, he's not. Like, he's the Luigi, he's the shadow of Wario, so he's the shadow of a shadow.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what Scary Movie 1 and 2 are. It's like, they're not parody, they're parodies of something that is a parody. So it's like, when you like Artifact to JPEG, and it just gets worse. It's the movie equivalent of an Artifact to JPEG.
And that is the entire thing that they like base their movie off, is like, we're going to make a parody of Scream. It's like, do you mean the movie that was meant to be a breakdown of slasher films?
Yeah, made by people who actually understand these movies instead of just going, haha, put a dick joke in here.
And that's the thing is, I was tempted to talk about Scream, but like, a lot of talking about Scream would be like, oh hey, this is actually a really good movie.
The Scream movies are really good, yeah.
And I only really remember Scream 1, and mostly because of just Matthew Lillard's performance. But
I think, yeah, one of the later ones where there was a huge uproar about it because the killer just starts using a gun. And I was like, well, this,
right.
like, because he runs around with a butcher's knife, that's his thing. But I'll tell you one thing that's really scary is when just like the guy in Scream, Ghostface, says, fuck it, shotgun. Just Ghostface with it's terrifying when you see Ghostface with a shotgun. And he's like running around a fucking like mini mall with a shotgun. It's like, I'd be scared of that.
It's one thing trying to run away from a guy that's just got a knife. It's like running away from a shotgun. Dear God. Then, of course, the other main parody was I Know What You Did Last Summer. The killer uses a hook. He is also seen similar to the fisherman. And then when the friends accidentally run the fisherman over, the note says, I know what you did last Halloween. And again, I don't understand how that's meant to be funny. It's just, I know that this movie exists.
Well, that's what it is. It's like, it's reference.
Yeah.
It's funny because reference. It's like, there are a couple of moments, though. I single out the one, why would you be scared of a skeleton? I like the intro. I like the intro to Scary Movie 1, where it's like, I think it's the intro, it's like a part where she's like running away. And it's one of those things where it's like 5 seconds, and it's the funniest part of the entire movie. Where like Cindy is like, oh no, the phone line's been cut. I'll send an email. And she sends an email to the police. It says, white woman in distress. And like a police car turns up a second later. That's really funny. That's a really funny thing. White woman in distress. Woo, woo, woo. That was funny. That was a really funny joke.
Again, just, the moment, for example, where like Ghostface is hiding behind the curtains, like, you'll never guess where I am. And the joke is just, well, I can see your feet.
Do you know what the best bit is as well? They actually do that in one of the Scream movies. Because like, Courtney Cox is in those movies.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, so like, and they bring her back for one of the sequels, and she's just done. And like Ghostface calls her up and says, "Hello there, I'm gonna get you," and she goes, "Fuck off," hangs up, immediately calls him back, and then here's where the phone's ringing, just shoots in that direction. It's like, the thing is though, that's in a Scream movie, and that's really clever.
Yeah,
I really like how they do that. And it's like, and I don't think Scary Movie's ever done anything that clever, except with a handful. Like, like I said, the white woman in distress joke did genuinely put me on my ass. But then it's like, that's 5 seconds of the movie, and the rest of it is like weed and dick jokes.
Yeah, it's like, oh, the was up, and it's like, oh.
Which goes on for like 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
So do you remember was that, Lucas? Do you remember Ghostface getting high?
And like, I like the idea of like, oh, we're all getting high, and the killer, like, we're so high we didn't notice the killer was in the room with us, and we're all just having a laugh.
But do you know what other movie did that? Scream.
Oh, did it?
Because they're pissed out. It's not that high. They're drunk in that movie.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so what are you actually saying different? It's like basically what you've done is you just recreated the film with worse actors.
All this is looking through these parodies. It's like, how did we parody The Sixth Sense? They said, I see dead people. That's not a parody. It's just saying a line out of a different movie.
And that's the thing of like, and it's like, that's not parody, but like, the white woman distress joke is. Because that's like, it's taking a part of that genre and like, drawing attention to it. And I guess like the joke they keep making, like, black people die first in horror movies. They keep making that joke over and over, but then they run that into the ground.
Yeah.
And again, that's something Scream does multiple times. It's like, if you're not really noticing or having any insight here, that's not already been noticed by the thing you're parodying.
And another movie that I'm not sure. So it references I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. Is that a sequel to I Know What You Did Last Summer? Is that a parody of it?
Yeah. And I Know What You Did Last Summer it's basically a feature-length version of the classic campfire story of the woman who hit someone with her car.
Yeah.
So, you killed someone, and then you keep it a big secret, and then the killer comes back.
Yeah. Oh, and then, like, it's like The Exorcist. It's like,
which has already been parodied.
Line, look, if it's about that time I puked green slime and masturbated with a crucifix, it was my first keg party, Bobby. It's like, I guess that's slightly more parodic than just saying the line, but it just really ekes of the comedy of that time, and like they also
laziness, I think is the word you're looking for.
Yeah, lazy and shit, and just like Cindy makes exorcist roars while having sex with Bobby.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how funny, Karl. It's like, dear God, I can't believe how like revered these kind of movies were at the time in terms of like not necessarily like critical success, but just cultural success.
Oh yeah, like people would like reference those movies endlessly.
Mm-hmm. And
that's why I said like the third one is the best one, because that is a send up to Signs and 8 Mile.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think it's great. So it's immediately like, wait a minute, Signs, the Alien movie, and 8 Mile. It's like, exactly. That's why the Zucker brothers are so good at that sort of thing. And it has like some of my favourite lines in any movie, like where just a guy baseball bats the head off an alien. It's like, guys, without their heads, they're powerless. And it's like...
So yeah, that, like, you know, a few of these references get a bit more like complex, but
have you got to the one where they reference a commercial for Nike?
It doesn't specifically say a Nike commercial here.
Yeah, they reference a commercial where someone does a basketball.
Oh,
because it was out that year and they saw it on TV.
It does mention the Budweiser What's Up campaign.
Yep.
Of like, yeah.
So nothing makes it timeless like that.
On the phone, and the What's Up bit from Scary Movie was a parody of the Budweiser What's Up advert campaign,
which was one of the most obnoxious adverts.
Mm-hmm.
I think it keeps winning awards of like most obnoxious adverts because it's one of those adverts where people just copied it, thinking, I call it like, Joey, people they'll quote something and think that's funny.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that did.
Yeah.
It's like the amount of people who just think like, well, instead of telling a joke, it'd be really funny right now if I just go, what's up? It's like, that's not funny. You're just saying something you saw.
I think the primary example of like someone parodying that correctly is in The Office, where like Michael Scott thinks it's like the funniest thing. He keeps going around in the early season like, what's up? And it's
that's what she said, yeah.
Yeah, and the entire point is that character doesn't know comedy and is obnoxious as hell, and that's the type of person that would run around and go, what's up?
Yeah. And the joke is that it's not funny, which makes it funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah.
And speaking of not funny, Karl, the reception to the movie, it received mixed reviews from critics. On Rotten Tomatoes, 53% of critics gave the film a positive review based on 109 reviews.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe Layden of Entertainment Weekly gave the film a positive review, remarking that the film was unbounded by taste, inhibition, or political correctness, and that the outer limits of R-rated respectability are stretched, if not shredded, by the movie.
Do you know what I love when something's described as being politically incorrect? Because you know what that means they just make gay jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, the Wayans brothers have just come under fire in recent years. Like, why are like so many of your movies and projects just misogynistic? What's with all these old tweets?
Mm.
Do you know that classic one of like, what's with these old tweets?
Yeah.
But I will say, though, the one person I appreciate is that Anna Faris. Her performance is very good. She's very good at playing just like scared. Well, she's a really great comedian. I'm surprised she's not in more comedic roles because she's really good in that film as Sidney Prescott.
And
or Cindy Campbell in that movie.
In like 3 movies, right? 3 of the scary movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a reason why, because, yeah, she just sells that really well.
Oh, I forgot, Lucas. I forgot. There's a character in Scary Movie called Miss Man. And the joke is that the joke is that they've got testicles.
Great. By contrast, Karl, Roger Ebert did not find the film was innovative, saying that the film lacked the shocking impact of Airplane, which had the advantage of breaking new ground. However, he did give the film 3 stars out of 4, saying it delivers the goods, calling the film a raucous, satirical attack on slasher movies.
Yep. I'll never forget that Roger Ebert gave a positive review to that film. I think it's called like Kripke's Lost Tribe.
Right.
Where I think it's Richard Dreyfuss. He says like, "Oh no, I'm going to get like I'm an anthropology professor, and I've been found out. So I've found this lost uncontacted tribe." And what he does is he puts his kids in blackface and films them in his backyard. And Roger Ebert gave it a positive review, which is like, yeah, it's like just literally a film of all the principal actors wearing blackface, running around in grass skirts and fake mud huts, making clicking noises with their mouths. Mm-hmm. And he's like, this is a really great comedy.
God damn. And it's funny going through the cameos here. And it's
I guess there's a few of them, yeah.
Well, it's more funny seeing like Jennifer Coolidge was offered the role of Miss Man, but turned it down. Hey, Jared Leto was offered to play Bobby during the early stage of the casting. He eventually declined in favour of doing Requiem for a Dream, which also starred Marlon Wayans. Alicia Silverstone was offered the role of Cindy, but turned it down.
That's a shame. She's a pretty decent actor.
But it's probably a good thing to get the fuck away from this project.
What's the problem? I say that Anna Faris is really good in the movie. Like she's really good at delivering her lines of like exasperated comedic woman intonation. Mm-hmm. But it's just a shame that you have like all these other just like the character of Miss Man, which
well,
you know they wrote it and you know they were laughing as they wrote that character of like, it'll be really funny if this character is a woman but she's got testicles because
in the scene where Cindy is in Miss Man's office, there is a Nazi SS uniform hanging to the right of Miss Man.
Oh yeah, because I think the joke is that they're I think the character, it says here, because I have it in front of me, American fitness model and actress. So I think it's like buff lady. Mm-hmm. And say, from Eastern Europe or something like that. 'Cause that's obviously the joke, isn't it?
Yeah.
They've taken steroids and they have a atypical body type for a woman. So you know what that means, Lucas? That means fair game for being made fun of in these movies.
And I think, like, just, it really sums it up here of just what the fuck was going on with this film.
Okay.
Like, the script for Scary Movie is actually a combination of 2 scripts Dimension Films brought in from 1998. One script, The Last Summer I Screamed Because Halloween Fell on the Friday the 13th, written by the Wayans brothers and Phil Bowman. And also, Scream If You Know What I Did Last Halloween by Jason Friedberg and Aaron Seltzer. The latter 2 of which are 2 of the 6 writers of Scary Movie, who went on to make Date Movie, Epic Movie, and other substandard parody movies.
Oh, just a clash of titans right there, comedic juggernauts, all working together. Thing is though, the fact this movie took 5 writers, to come together and say,
it took 6 writers apparently. 2 of the 6 writers of Scary Movie is quoted there. It's like 6 writers to come up with this shit show of just laziness and awful jokes.
I think that's the thing, yeah. It's like it's laziness is the key there. Like, it's like parody. You don't really get it much anymore. because it takes effort. Like you need to have such like a deep understanding of the thing that you're making fun of, and that's difficult to do.
Well, again, we talked like the other week about Shaun of the Dead, which was a great breakdown and parody of zombie movies.
Well, it's the same kind of film, though, isn't it?
Like
same
Scream.
boat.
Scream is just a breakdown and parody of slasher films, but these are like the parody movies. But yeah, apparently Shaun of the Dead and Scream just on the same level.
Yeah.
I can't believe someone said that. What are you doing, people? How are you watching these two movies and thinking they're of the same standard?
Well, because they're both making fun of tropes and stuff from horror movies, so they're the same,
one of them
right?
thought about it.
But they're the same. They're the same, right?
I think that it really is the perfect way to just break down what is good and bad parody. Is to put those two movies side by side, Shaun of the Dead versus Scary Movie.
It's like the third one, like I said, the third one. I'm just double check. I'm pretty sure it was Abrams Zucker, or it may have just been two of them.
Right.
So it was directed by David Zucker. So he's like one of the guys who did Airplane, but it was written by two other people. Mm-hmm. But I think just having the hand of someone who was actually involved with like Airplane, just at the helm. So I stand corrected, it wasn't a Abrams Zucker production, but it was produced by one where I think the other brother did a uncredited rewrite of the script.
Mm-hmm. And just, it's such an interesting thing to look back on of what not only was made around 2000, but also widely accepted and fine.
Well, that's one of the things that's really fascinating to go back and look at comedy and stuff like, what was acceptable fodder for comedy back then?
Mm-hmm. And like, we for years and years got these parody movies and they're probably still coming out. But no one really gives a shit when movie 43 came out. Like, no one was really talking about it other than how bad it was. And I know that was still like 10 years ago or whatever. But when Scary Movie came out, that was actually successful and popular.
Oh, yeah.
And spawned 4 sequels.
I think it's 5.
It said it went up to Scary Movie 5.
Ah, okay. I was like,
sequels.
I figured there had to be a director's DVD sequel somewhere, but I guess not.
But yeah, it's really fascinating to me that not only was this just a shit parody film, it was one that was like seen as very popular.
Yeah, and so like I would recommend give the third one a watch because it's Leslie Nielsen. I see it as just like those lesser Leslie Nielsen films, like you had like Spy Hard and like Dead and Loving It. And that weren't great, but because Leslie Nielsen is such a fantastic comedic actor. Mm-hmm. Like, one of his best line readings in any film he appeared in is where they have, for some reason, a cameo from the entire Wu-Tang Clan, where they have a gang war, and just like, they all die, and just Leslie Nielsen comes out and goes, these men died for their country, send flowers to their bitches and hoes, and you're like, just performance of his career, right? And that's the thing, just, that's what you need. You need, like, that staid, leading man type person to deliver lines like that. Because I think that's the joke they always made about Scary Movie, not Scary, those parody movies where that weren't directed by Zucker, Abrams and Zucker. They made Leslie Nielsen play up how like silly it is. It's like, no, it's funnier when he delivers the line completely straight. Mm-hmm. That's way funnier. That
He's
the person
very good at that, yeah.
And that's why you have like someone that has like Charlie Sheen in it, and he's like making fun of like 8 Mile. And that's like the one where they just parody that bit in Signs, is it? Yeah, the bit in Signs where he's talking to the policewoman, and like his wife's died, and just for no reason the policewoman's hat just keeps getting bigger, and just the entire scene, Charlie Sheen's like, huh? But because he plays it completely straight, and it's just for no reason the policewoman's hat keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It cracks me up so much.
Oh dear. But yeah, that was Scary Movie, everyone. Just something that I cannot believe existed in the way it did.
I just can't believe it basically gave us, like, indirectly or not, it gave us Date Movie 43, Meet the Spartans. Mm-hmm. Which is the worst of those, you think?
Of just terrible, terrible films for 20 years.
What do you think was the worst of those?
I mean,
so
movie 43.
I guess just like movie 43, because it's like, it's not even a movie. Like, it is like 15 unfunny ideas stretched out over an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And again, like, the only funny part of that is like the little skits they did that weren't made by them.
Yeah.
They were like, I think they were skits that they bought from other comedians.
I genuinely think that might be the worst thing I've ever sat through.
That's it's the only film I've ever thought about walking out of. And I'm the person who says, like, I'll watch any old shit. And that's like, I thought there's almost no value to it, but I sat through. I could say I did it. Do you like those things like I voted?
Oh, yeah.
I want to say I watched movie 43 all the way through. And all I got was this lousy t-shirt. Well, speaking of, like, getting free stuff for watching things. So this is we can win things by watching. Today's podcast is sponsored, isn't it, Lucas?
It is indeed. And
Go on.
I was going to say, maybe we're better off talking about this after I take a quick break.
Okay, no problem. So far away, Lucas, we're back. And as mentioned at the start of this podcast, this episode is sponsored by a movie. Because, we're talking about movies today. And I mentioned, like, winning things by watching. Like, you can certainly win things by helping and supporting over at the Indiegogo link found below on Halloween. As well, launching an Indiegogo for a horror movie on Halloween is like a pretty baller move. But Lucas, tell us more about this movie. So you've got like the little fact sheet. So I got them to make a little fact sheet for you, because I've worked with these guys already where they sponsored a few fact theme videos, but then they had to they pushed production back a little bit, and then they contacted me again like, okay, now we're ready to go. We're launching on Halloween. Can we sponsor some Wiki Weekends episodes as well? I'm like, hell yeah, you can. Let's go.
So one moment while I pull up this PDF.
Yeah, that's it. They actually wrote Lucas a little fact sheet. And to be clear, like these are not like we have to say this. It's more they sent Lucas just a little fact sheet of like, here's just some fun facts about the movie, and like they're actually super interesting, aren't they? Mm-hmm. Like, you see it's like filmed on location in this like weird ass bunker in Canada, full of gold.
It's like they say that 90% of the film is shot in Canada's Cold War bunker, which is a government facility, military base, and fallout shelter that got turned into a museum. And I had to clarify to you, like, oh, does that mean that this is like a fictional bunker? It's like, no, they actually got to film on location.
Yeah, in this like weird ass bunker.
And that's cool as hell. And they do straight away say, like, we don't expect you to endorse the movie as something you like. We haven't seen the movie. We can't.
Exactly, and I appreciate that. Like, it's not something we've seen, but from what I've spoke to, like, I've been speaking to their the liaison, who has the name Brendan Butt. Mm-hmm. So for just keep in mind, folks at home, I've got like a 50 email long chain talking to this person since like, March of this year that just says communication between Butt and Smallwood. And that alone, I think, is worth the cost of entry.
And of course, the movie is I'll Be Glad When You're Dead.
Yes.
The campaign launches, as you say, Karl, on Indiegogo on Halloween 2023, of course, October 31st.
Yeah, so we're doing some pre-release hype building for that. So,
and the one thing that I found very interesting is, I had to laugh to you about it, is that they mentioned the crew usually makes Christmas movies all year round.
Yes,
and that they're finally getting to like take a break and do some horror stuff and do some Halloween things.
So I got some details on this where I asked for clarification, and I did some check-in, and like I think like the executive producer worked on one of those Hallmark Christmas movies. Like, she's an uptight lawyer from insert big city. She's gone home because she wants to get porked by this handsome man who woodworks to learn the true meaning of Christmas. And I was like, I can imagine, and people don't know those movies, they don't make them near Christmas. They make them like in March. Mm-hmm. And like, I asked for clarification, like, so almost all of your crew works on like these Hallmark Christmas. Like, yeah, now you can see why they're really excited to work on a movie where we get to kill people. Yeah. Like, should you imagine working on those kind of movies and
all year round,
all year, and think about how much you'd want to like, how much of a palate cleanser it'd be to make a slasher movie. Mm-hmm. Which is what the movie is. It's a slasher movie, and like any good slasher movie, like, they have a villain. We can't tell you who the villain is because that's a secret, but the villain uses an axe. And one of the things you can get for supporting the Indiegogo is you can get a screen-used axe. You can appear in the movie as a scream off camera, which I'm going to record at some point, but I need to let my neighbours know if you hear me screaming in my house. It's not because I'm playing Metal Gear Rising with Vengeance and losing again. It's because I'm recording something for work.
Oh, dear.
So you can be like a voice or scream in the movie. They're doing like a Blu-ray release and a VHS release. And I'm so excited because I've asked, can you send me one of the VHSs? I'd love to have a VHS. Why have you got a VHS? It's like, oh, it's for a movie that I'm in. And they're like, wait, what? It's like, you could say that too. So you could legit have a VHS on your shelf and say, that's a movie that I'm in.
Yeah.
Because your screens could be in it.
Loved as well. Like, again, they sent across like a little fact sheet for me just to mention stuff. And the phrasing, we chose VHS for the meme and the lols of an 80s homage. I'm like, I respect that so much of like, we did it for the memes.
That's what I'm doing for the gram. Let's go. And that's it. And just, I've been in communication with Brendan from their team for like 6 to 8 months now. And one of the things that I think it's not pertinent to the project, which I hope if people think it sounds interesting, really check out the links below, check out their socials and all that good stuff. Yeah. But the one thing I think just speaks to the character of the people making this is that they paid me up front for those fact theme videos they sponsored. Mm-hmm. And then told me, like, we'll still pay you, even if they're not going out. And it's the same for this. Like, they offered to pay me ahead of time. Pay us, I should say, for these sponsor plugs ahead of time. Because they say, no, like, we know your guys' work. We trust you to, like, make it good. And then just, like, that level. I guess it's the opposite of professionalism. Because that's not what a professional would do.
It's like casualism.
But that level of, like, trust and just and faith in that we're going to, like, do a good job promoting it.
Yeah,
that's just like it speaks to the character.
Both parties to do their parts at some point.
And I just thought it was a really fun, like, little story. It sounds like an interesting thing. Like, I love horror movies of all kinds.
And obviously, we're over here on Wiki Weekends. We're also teaming up with them over on Fact Fiend, and they say, like, for anyone interested in a bunch of fact stuff, they are making a fact-filled yearbook as well. Which,
that's the thing, because it's a bunch of kids going into this bunker. Shenanigans ensue in that theme. They're also doing a yearbook, and that's like, again, sticking with the theme.
Like, I feel like it fits our brand quite well as well.
Yep.
To work with us, yeah.
So, I love that idea as well, like sticking to the theme of, like, it's school kids getting, shit pushed in by a guy with an axe. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, what's the art book for the film going to be? Well, it's going to be a yearbook. It's just like, I appreciate that level of consistency in the branding.
Yeah, and that's the thing, again, we've not seen the movie. I don't know too much about it other than, like, what Karl's mentioned on the fact sheet I've got, but just, it sounds like they're doing a lot of fun things, and just, as we said, like, it's just a bunch of people that made Christmas movies a lot, and are, like, finally having fun with being able to do something Halloween-related.
Like I said, passion project. Mm-hmm. And, like, like I said, as someone's been speaking with, like, members of their team for, like, months now, the passion has come through. Like, so even when they were doing their hiatus, I was still getting, like, updates and stuff from Brendan, who was sending, like, behind the scenes shots and details, like, we're doing this now. We're excited because we managed to get this extra detail, this stretch goal. We're planning to do this, and this. So if any of this sounds interesting to you, like, check out the links below, and like, I think there'll be a pre-launch page below, and you can go check out, like, the actual Indiegogo page itself on. Oh, I thought you were going to jump in for me.
Oh, okay.
I was waiting for you. I was like, come on, Lucas. We were so in sync.
The thing is, because your camera froze earlier during filming.
Did you think
I was like, oh, his camera's frozen again.
No.
You stayed so perfectly still.
Yeah.
Oh.
That'd be good. I'd be good in a horror movie. Just get the old, wah! So that's the thing. Do I want to do a real scream, or do I want to do a, like, wah!
Try and do, like, a Wilhelm scream again and put in that.
I can always do, like, my Mario scream, because I'm pretty good at that. Either. I'm pretty good at that one.
The best part is because we're on Discord, it just cuts all that out for me.
It does, yeah.
So I can just see Karl attempting to scream towards me and hearing nothing.
Oh, no. Well, yeah, thank you to the guys at I'll Be Glad When You're Dead. I wish you the best of luck. Much appreciate you reaching out to sponsor the Wiki Weekends. But, it's my turn for my Wiki. And I brought, again, it's not about a movie, but it's movie related. And it's, speaking of passion, speaking of, like, someone who just has a real passion for the craft of making horror and entertainment more, like, first and foremost.
Okay.
The wiki I've chosen is on William Castle. Are you familiar at all with the American film director, producer, screenwriter, and actor, William Castle?
So I know the name William Castle, but I'm pretty sure that's just because you've mentioned William Castle to me before.
Okay, so let's put everyone on the same page now then. So, obviously, links to the wikis can be found below, but William Castle, born William Schloss Jr., was an American film director, producer, screenwriter, actor. He was orphaned at 11. He dropped out of high school at 15 to work in theatre and came to the attention of Columbia Pictures for his talent at communication and promotion. He learned the trade of filmmaking and became a director, acquiring a reputation for being able to quickly churn out highly competent B-movies on a budget. And that's similar to one of my filmmaking heroes, which is Roger Corman, known as a B-movie auteur, and he is famous for never releasing a movie that didn't turn a profit. Admittedly, some of those movies made like $400,000, but they all made a profit.
And that's kind of the art of B movies, though, right? It's like making something well enough on a small enough budget that, like, if you go and make $1 million, you're making a profit.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that's really funny about like his career is that, like, you know, he was known for directing horrors and thrillers, but he was also, for some reason, a producer on Rosemary's Baby.
I don't know what Rosemary's Baby is.
Just like one of, like, you know, those like seminal horror movies, but, you know, sticking with the theme, it was directed by Roman Polanski.
Oh, right.
So, you know what? The less said about that, the better. Let's move on instead to the dumb stuff that William Castle would do. So, just a little bit of background on him. At 13, he saw a play, Dracula, starring Bela Lugosi, and was entranced by both the vampire and the performance. He watched performance after a performance, eventually managing to meet Lugosi himself. He wrote in his autobiography, "Step right up, I'm going to scare the pants off America," which is a great name for an autobiography. "I knew then and there what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to scare the pants off of audiences." Lugosi recommended him for the position of assistant stage manager for the road company tour of the play. At 15 years old, he dropped out of high school to take the job, which don't do that.
No.
Don't
Not
do
recommended.
that.
But so that's one thing I was going to ask. Does that then mean that they had a career in like live performances, not necessarily just films?
His background was theatre, yes.
Yeah.
But that background gave him some, like, you know, connections and, like, allowed him to cut his teeth, which allowed, like, for example, he obtained Orson Welles' telephone number and persuaded Welles somehow to lease him the Stony Creek Theatre in Connecticut as Welles was leaving to begin filming Citizen Kane.
So nothing much then, yeah.
No, so he somehow got a hold of Orson Welles. He then hired the German actress, and I hope I pronounced this name correctly, Ellen Schwaneke. Upon learning that, under then current guild regulations, German-born actors could only appear in plays originally performed in Germany.
Okay.
Because racism. So what he did then is Castle claimed he had hired her for the non-existent play Das Ich nicht für Kinder, not for the children, and then spent the following weekend writing the play. So he made up a play and then having it translated into German. So he wrote a play that was fake, had it translated into German, and then convinced people that was a real German play.
Fair enough. That's commitment.
And it says here that when Nazi Germany sent Schwaneke an invitation to a Munich performance, Castle seized the opportunity for an outrageous publicity stunt that would become a staple of his career. So he released to the newspapers what he claims was a telegram he had sent turning down the request, and portrayed his star as the girl who said no to Hitler. So just like already you can just see, like, you know, the wheels turning in his head of like, okay, I'm going to get I can get this German actress for cheap because she's like not really well known over here. Oh no, there's a rule that says she can only perform in plays featuring, that were written in Germany. Well, I'll make up a play that was in Germany. Oh, I'm just going to make sure, you know, do you know what people in America love right now? Telling Hitler to go fuck himself. Like I said, my actress did that. To add to the sensationalism, he secretly vandalised the theatre and painted swastikas on the exterior. It worked. The resulting publicity ensured the play's success.
I mean, that's one way to get yourself noticed.
That became his talent. Like, he had just like this seeming, like, you know, affinity for just weird gimmicks. Like, you know, gimmicks were his bread and butter. You know, speaking of which, the There's literally a title on his Wikipedia page that says gimmicks. So, ambitions unsatisfied, because he worked briefly at Columbia Pictures. It says Castle began making films independently. The inspiration of the 1955 French psychological thriller Le Diabolique set the genre he would choose. He financed his first movie, Macabre, in 1958 by mortgaging his own house. He came up with an idea to give every customer who watched the movie a certificate for a $1,000 life insurance policy from Lloyd's of London in case they died of fright during the film. That's the thing, like, how good is that? And that's why I thought I'd pick this one, because, you know, the Indiegogo for I'll Be Glad When You're Dead has always, like, you know, you can get a VHS copy of it. That's a neat gimmick. That's a good way of getting people to be, like, interested who maybe otherwise wouldn't be. It's like, give everyone who walks in a $1,000 life insurance policy because you might die of fright.
And, yeah, I was going to say, like, this person somehow seemingly built a career out of, like, just the poorest decisions in life of, like, oh, I'm gonna drop out of high school. I'm gonna put a mortgage on my house just to, like, benefit this, like, first project of mine. Like, these are terrible ideas, but it does always make for fun stories when it does work out for a certain person. It does.
He also stationed nurses in the lobbies with hearses parked outside the theatres. Obviously, no one did die, but, like, you hear about the movie where, have you heard this movie's so scary that they give you a life insurance policy when you walk in?
Like, they've got to have nurses in the foyer in case someone dies.
And do you know who else did that? Oh, Luke's is coughing. That's not the name of the guy. That's not his name. Well, while Luke's is coughing, I'll say this was also a favoured technique of Alfred Hitchcock.
Right, okay.
He didn't go to the same extreme lengths as Castle did, at least not for all of his movies, but very famously when Psycho came out, one of the things Hitchcock did is it was based on a novel. He bought every copy of the novel available for sale in the city it premiered, and then announced that to the press.
So that, like,
people couldn't spoil
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, like, have you heard that, like, you know, he bought every copy of it? Again, just gets you some column inches. He also, at the time when, like, he was making movies, it was, like, common practice for people to just walk into the theatre whenever they wanted to. Because it was just a thing of, like, you just want something to do, you can walk in halfway through the performance and walk out. He specifically instructed theatres showing Psycho to lock the doors after the performance had begun, and that no one will be allowed entry. And the trailer for the film is just him reading the novel, saying, I'd show you a clip from the film, but it's too scary. And then he just sit there. And again, it's like, you know, just those gimmicks that made people want to go see it. Like, wait, what is this? What's the deal with this film?
Yeah, just when, you know, word spreads that these movies are so terrifying that you can't even see them.
At the very least, you just want to be part of, like, the conversation. You don't want to be left out. Yeah. It's like, you know, when a hot new thing comes out nowadays, like, you don't want to be the person who hasn't seen Squid Game. Like, you don't want to, you know, not be part of, like, you know, the conversation.
Do you reckon, like, I mean, there must have been, but even back then, were those really annoying people of, like, well, I'm specifically not going to go watch Psycho because everyone keeps talking about it, and, like, I don't want to be part of the zeitgeist. You did have people like that, yes. Of course. And Hitchcock didn't care because they didn't watch his movies, so he didn't give a fuck. But no, other films and gimmicks soon followed. Like, you know, so this included, but was not limited to, House on Haunted Hill in 1959, filmed in Emergovision. A skeleton with red-lighted eye sockets attached to a wire would float over the audience in the final moments of some showings of the film, parallel to the action on screen when a skeleton rises from a vat of acid and pursues the villainous wife of Vincent Price's character. So, like, what just threw skeletons at people? Basically, yeah. So what would happen is you'd be watching the film, and it'd say on the poster and in the trailer of, like, in this film, we have Emergovision, where a monster from the film will emerge from the screen. And you're like, oh my God, what happens? And it's just a skeleton on wires going, woo! But it says here that once word spread about the skeleton, children would enjoy trying to knock it down. And the thing is, though, those kids would pay to go to the film again. Yeah. Like, people would pay to go in to try and spot the skeleton. And, like, that's the thing, he didn't care. It doesn't matter if people are going in to throw popcorn at my skeleton, they've still paid for a ticket. Yeah. And I love that idea of, like, kids would go in and try and, like, just knock the skeleton down. It's getting bums on seats.
Bums on seats. We have The Tingler, 1959, filmed in Perceptovision. You might notice a trend here. The title character is a creature that attaches itself to the human spinal cord, is activated by fright, and can be destroyed only by screaming.
Oh, okay.
Castle purchased surplus military airplane wing de-icers, which is basically just a motor that vibrates very violently to remove ice from the wings of airplanes. Mm-hmm. He then had crews travel from theatre to theatre, attaching them to the undersides of some of the seats.
Not all of them.
Not all of them. And in the finale, one of the creatures is said to have gotten loose into the movie theatre itself. The buzzers were activated as the film's star, Vincent Price, warned the audience to scream for your lives. So what happens is the film stops and the main character goes up to the front and says, there's a tingler loose in the audience. You will feel, as you know from the film, if you feel a vibration, the base of your spine, that's the tingler trying to get you. Mm-hmm. Scream if you want it to stop. Now imagine you hear that, and then an airplane wing de-icer goes off under your seat. And of course, obviously, you're going to shit yourself, aren't you? Mm-hmm. And again, people learn that they do this, and people would race in to find which seat had that on, sit in that seat to experience that moment. Again, they'd buy multiple tickets to go see it. But isn't that amazing, though?
I love the idea of just dumb gimmicks to get people to go and watch a film.
Literally putting bums on seats and then, scaring them off.
Yeah.
Well, I just love the idea of, there's a tingler loose in the audience.
Just launch people out of their chairs.
13 Ghosts, filmed in Illusiono. Each patron received a handheld ghost viewer/remover during certain segments, so basically a 3D glasses. During certain segments of the film, a person could see the ghost by looking through the red cellophane or hide them by looking through the blue. So that was the gimmick of, you get told of you can only see the ghost if you look through the red, but if it's too scary, look through the blue. And you could slide it from side to side. And again,
blue vision the entire way.
And only during certain scenes though, because it was filmed in black and white. So it'd just be one of those things you'd get a thing quick, put on your glasses, and the characters in the movie put their glasses on. And if it was too scary, you could not. And again, people would go in multiple times to play around with that gimmick.
But that's such a clever way of utilising the technology that you have to get people interested and get people having different viewing experiences.
It's great, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Homicidal, 1961. There was a fright break with a timer overlaid on the film's climax. As the heroine approached the house harbouring a sadistic killer, the audience had 45 seconds to leave and get a full refund if they were too frightened to see the remainder of the film. Again, how cool is that?
And I like that as well, that it's only 45 seconds, so you're not going to get the entire theatre audience to be able to go and get a refund in that time.
No, and here we go, Luke. Are you ready? Because the audience got just as clever here. In an early showing, wily patrons simply sat through the movie a second time and left at the break to get their money back. To prevent this, in future, Castle had different colour tickets printed for each showing. Accordingly, about 1% of patrons demanded refunds. Director John Waters described Castle's response as follows. William Castle simply went nuts. He came up with Coward's Corner, a yellow cardboard booth manned by a bewildered theatre employee in the lobby. When the fright break was announced and you found you couldn't take it anymore, you had to leave your seat in front of the entire audience, follow yellow footsteps up the aisle, bathed in yellow light before you reached Coward's Corner. You would then go to the thing where it says "Cowards keep walking." You would pass a nurse in a yellow uniform who would offer a blood pressure test, all while the recording was blaring, saying, "Watch the chicken, watch him shiver in Coward's Corner." You then had to go through one final indignity at Coward's Corner to get your refund. You had to sign a yellow card saying, "I'm a coward." The thing is, though, how good is that?
That's so good. I love as well moments of look, you can come and get a refund. We are going to berate you.
Yeah.
As an audience member, and not in a horrible way, in a very, funny, silly way of just look, you're a coward.
Yeah. Then we have Mr. Sardonicus. The audience could vote on the villain's fate in a punishment poll during the climax. Castle would appear on screen to explain one of two options. Each member of the audience was given a card with a glow-in-the-dark thumb they could hold up or down to decide if Mr. Sardonicus should be cured or die. Supposedly, no audience ever chose mercy, so the alternate ending was never screened.
Oh my god. That's so gutting.
And there's a rumour that they never actually filmed it because they made the villain so irredeemable, they never expected anyone to pick the good option. So they just never filmed it. But according to William Castle, he said that we did, on occasion, some people did pick it, we did film it, but that just adds to the mystique, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. He says that at drive-in versions, drivers were asked to flash their headlights.
Yeah, I love the idea that, not only it's this movie has two different endings, but one of the endings, we don't know if it exists. Mm-hmm. No one's ever seen it.
And again, it's another one of those things that adds to the mystique of the film. Mm-hmm. You have 13 Frightened Girls in 1963. Castle launched a publicised worldwide casting hunt for the prettiest girls from different countries. Not 13 as in the title, but 15. He filmed slightly different versions of each of the film to release in each country, highlighting the girl that was picked. Which is a neat thing of just each regional differences. That's a pretty popular trivia bomb now, isn't it? This film has a different scene in this market.
But the idea that this one has a different actor, that's commitment right there.
Yeah. Straight Jacket, 1964. Advised by his financial backers to eliminate his gimmicks, Castle hired Joan Crawford and sent her on a promotional tour to select theatres. At the last minute, though, he printed off a bunch of cardboard axes. Old habits die. And that's the thing. Imagine telling this guy not to do any gimmicks. Mm-hmm. When they're so fun. It's they're costing us money, but they're fun. People enjoy them.
And there'll be a lot of people going to the cinema because of them.
Yeah. I Saw What You Did, another Joan Crawford vehicle. This film was initially promoted using giant plastic telephones, but after a rash of prank calls and complaints, the Bell Telephone Company refused Castle permission to use them or mention telephones. So he turned the back rows of theatres into shock sections where seatbelts were installed to keep patrons from being jolted from their chairs in fright. And then finally, Bug. In 1975, Castle advertised a $1 million life insurance policy for the film's star, Hercules the Cockroach. And isn't that so fun? Mm-hmm. Isn't that just a really fun, whimsical journey through the life of a man who just clearly enjoyed making people scared?
Yeah, and it's just so upsetting to me to hear that, a lot of the lessons kind of weren't learned, and it was just stop doing these gimmicks. Yep,
and it's I mentioned Alfred Hitchcock. You mentioned Alfred Hitchcock earlier. Psycho was directly inspired, as was the marketing, by William Castle. Mm-hmm. He's also the favourite filmmaker of John Waters, Robert Zemeckis, some other people. It's because the guy just having fun.
Yeah.
But isn't that the coward's corner? It's
that's maybe my favourite one.
It's you can get your money back, but you've got to sign a piece of paper saying I'm a fucking coward. And if you don't, you're not allowed it. It's I remember during the pandemic. It was okay, you're allowed to be exempt from wearing a mask, but only if you sign a piece of paper saying you are morally weaker than a furry. Now you have to admit that you're not as strong as a furry. You can't handle wearing a mask for more than half an hour, and we'll let you get away with it. But I just always found that fascinating. I remember learning about him when I was doing film in college, and was just obsessed with that. So I watched a bunch of the thing is that the movies are really fun, and they're really campy, B movies.
Sometimes that's all you need.
It is, and 13 Ghosts, the 1960s version, is actually pretty good. Because that's the one where you have the woman oh no, it's a skeleton. It's do 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 do. It's the most basic bitch skeleton you've ever seen. It's do 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 skeleton. Yeah, go on skeleton.
Thing is, does it hold up to early Doctor Who villains? Of just men in bin bags and garbage cans and shit.
Go on then, like, you know, let's end. What is, you think, like, the weakest horror movie, like, villain or thing you're supposed to be scared of? Because there's a couple of, like, real bad. Like, you mentioned, like, Doctor Who with, like, the Daleks, and it's like, it's a bin with a plunger.
Because if anyone, like, isn't aware, just go and Google some of those, like, 1960s Doctor Who villains. And it is literally just, like, whatever production could, like, find in the fucking cupboard that week.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know, put a bin bag and a broomstick on him. That'll do.
The thing is that I would love. So I think we always joke about the idea of just making a villain he just beats you with a bat. So I always love that idea. It's like it's the scary. Like, I think I saw it the other day. It put me on my fucking ass, and it was like, the shorter a sword's name is, the more dangerous it is. And it's like, obviously you don't want to get hit by, like, Lord Lucian's Dark Blade of Maleficence or whatever the fuck it's called, but you certainly don't want to get hit by the Throngler. it's like the simpler a gimmick is, the scarier. It's like, you know, in I'll Be Glad When You're Dead, it's just some dude with a fire axe chasing you down. Like, that's really scary.
I think maybe my favorite example of, like, something that you shouldn't be scared of, but, you know, people were, is, like, just the whatever the fuck they ended up being called in Night Trap.
The bin bag ninjas.
The weird bin bag ninja vampires. And it's like, not necessarily because of how bad they look, because plenty of things look that bad.
Of course, yeah.
But the fact that got taken to, like, Congress.
Oh, yeah.
Look how terrifying these things are. And then it's just like...
bin bag ninjas.
Just bin bag ninja vampires.
The bingers man's coming in. I love it. Stuff that always cracks me up.
But it's just the fact that, like, that they got taken to court of, like, look how terrifying these things are.
It's like, could your kids be watching this at home? And it's just like a woman in the bathroom getting attacked by a bin bag ninja. And you're like, hell yeah. But yeah, thank you to everyone for watching at home, and thank you to today's sponsor, I'll Be Glad When You're Dead. Check it out at the links below. We appreciate it.
Hell yeah, and let us know which wiki won this week, as
of course.
As well.
The Throngler. You don't want to get hit by it.